Well, on this video, we're going to be covering some fantastic news for the AU915 market. We're going to be talking about new hotspot vendors that are now cleared for distribution by the HIP19, and of course doing an update on the existing Helium hotspot vendors that we are waiting for orders. So stick with me, I'll be back shortly. And welcome. Okay, guys, welcome along to another Helium Down Under call. Guys, if I could ask you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed, and also click the thumbs up button so that it helps the YouTube algorithm to grow the importance of this particular content so that it can spread wider across this big, beautiful land of ours down under. The focus of tonight's call is all about Linksdot and some other vendors that are coming online as a result of last night's DY call. Now, the DY call is, and I'm just reading this because I'll never get it right otherwise, the Decentralized Wireless Alliance Community. It's the group basically within Helium that keep the cogs turning. They're the brains behind the operation that work with all of the HIP proposals, etc. And also the Helium MOC, which is the Manufacturers Oversight Committee. Now, yesterday the MOC met, and last night the DY had their monthly community meeting, and I was actually present on that call. It was 2 o'clock in the morning for me, so guys, I got to tell you, it was definitely not the most functional period of the evening for myself, but it was fantastic to be on the call and listen to some of the great news that came out. The most prevalent thing, of course, was to do with the HIP19 approvals. We have been waiting for some time now to receive the updates on HIP19 for the Australian market for the AU915, and great news, it's all happening tonight. Okay, so as you can see, we're going to get started with our presentation, the new Helium hotspots for Down Under, and the great news is that Linksdot have now passed the MOC and the DY Alliance tests, and they are cleared for distribution onto the Helium blockchain to become part of the Helium community. It's very exciting times indeed. Okay, so here is from a screenshot from Discord. This is the update from the MOC, or the Manufacturing Oversight Committee, update from July 2021. The MOC manages the HIP19 processes, which all vendors are approved to make hotspots that participate in the proof of coverage system. So they're the units, obviously, that we're purchasing, the hotspots, which are going to be creating that people's network to power the Internet of Things, and also to reward you in the with HNT through the proof of coverage. So the great news is that Linksdot, or FX Tech, is unanimously approved, which is awesome. The big thumbs up from everybody on board. Now, there was also unanimous approval for the Pisces unit, the outdoor, but they are only available in the EU and CE area. So once again, another hotspot provider that is looking out, rather that is missing out on distributing down to the Australian area. Now, there were a couple of other providers that you can see here. ClodPi, I will talk about those at the end, and the others there, well, guys, they're still in the mix, ready for the next MOC update, or MOC update. If we take a look at the current status tracker for the HIP19, you can see that Linksdot down here now has the community approval. Now, currently they're not, they haven't commenced pre-orders, as you'll find out through the rest of this video. We'll tell you exactly how and when that will actually occur, but it is a really exciting time to see that HIP19 finally approved. It is very exciting to see the Linksdot Helium hotspot finally get the full approval to join us here on this journey. It's going to be great. Alrighty, a little bit about the people behind Linksdot. I'm not going to spend a great deal of time tonight doing a company dive down. I mean, you can do that in your own time. But what I will tell you here is that Adrian Limao Chin, he is one of the founding members and managing director of Linksdot, or in fact, he is the founding member and managing director of Livermorium, which is the parent company that is sits over the top of Linksdot. And over to the left-hand side of the screen here is Mr. Erkan Selev. Actually, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that. Sorry. Also goes by the name of Eric on Discord, which is a whole lot more easier to say. So these are the two guys that I have been talking to, and pretty much the contents of tonight's presentation are taken to communications that I've received from these two guys over the last couple of weeks, in fact the last couple of months on our Linksdot journey. Now, one of the important notes that there was actually mentioned last night, the presenter on the DY call right at the very start when he did the HIP19 updates is Germ. Now, I'm not entirely sure. I assume that's probably Jeremy, but anyway, he goes by the name of Germ on Discord. And he currently sits as a part of the mock. And it's really important that they want to stress all being part of what has happened over the last few months with our current hotspot vendors, with Linksdot, with RAK, with Syncrobit, and the many other vendors that are out there that maybe aren't part of the Australian rollout. But we have seen obviously some issues come into various vendors. And what the mock want to stress is the fact that they are looking at a company's ability to produce the technology. They are not looking to assess the level of customer service, refund policies, and all of those other things, the communication style of the company. They don't look at the fundamentals of the business. They look at the technology, because that's what they do. The mock are experts in the technology field. So they urge everybody to do their own research on any company that you are wishing to commit your time, money, resources to, and purchasing hotspots to power the people's network. Just very briefly down here, Livermorium is an electronics design and manufacturing professionals. They are based in the UK and they have got manufacturing partners in Shenzhen in China. The team has vast experience in design and manufacturing of product testing, allowing us to help clients, so on and so forth. Guys, they have been primarily focused on building Android products in the past, smartphones, tablets, etc. Launching into hotspots is somewhat of a new technology, but it's all still based around radio and computer, so they have got the expertise to be able to deliver the goods here. But as I mentioned before, don't take my word for it. Don't take the word of any YouTube commentator that you may see. Do your own research. Do your own due diligence before investing your own money into any hotspot provider. Okay, so here we are. We're going to have our FAQ, or our questions that basically have been collated from Facebook and from the Discord community over the last couple of weeks that will hopefully address all of those questions that you've got right now about how to get started with Linksdot. The first question, of course, is will Linksdot ship to Australia and New Zealand? Do they have the certification? We know that the company are willing to produce units, but can they legally operate in the country? Great news is, yes, they can. Right now, they have already accessed, or they've already taken care of the FCC and the CE, so the FCC for the US and the CE certification for Europe. And they are currently, as we speak, accessing the RCM certification for Australian and New Zealand. If you're unfamiliar with the mark, this is the mark that any electronic goods that are entering the Australian New Zealand space are meant to have in order to be correctly certified. And a lot of the tests that the RCM will leverage off a combination of the FCC and the CE testing. Speaking to Adrian just yesterday, and also Eric via Discord, the full expectation is that Linksdot will have the RCM within the next week, well and truly before any units are actually shipped to Australia. But there you go, guys. Hot off the press. It does have the certification we're looking for. Question number 2. What is the price of the Linksdot hotspot? How much are they going to be charging us to get these goods in our hands? Well, now there are going to be a series of batches of Linksdot rolled out, and we're starting obviously with batch number 1. Batch number 1 has been an agreed price set with the company that is going to be £399, which converts approximately to about $755 Australian at the time of recording. Now, but here's the good news, and this is, I really can't confirm this 100%. Eric did state this in the Discord. However, I'm not entirely certain that this is for everybody in the world or if it's maybe only for those in Europe. And that is that the price of $755 actually includes shipping and handling. So that's something to keep an eye on. Hopefully that is the case. Now, the prices of future batches, there is some design changes coming up in order to be able to produce units with components that are more readily accessible. And of course, based on supply and demand of hotspots at that point, the price of the units may change. They may go down or they may go up a small amount in the future. But for now, batch 1 is all we can work with, and the price is $755 Australian, approximate price at the time of recording. Question number 3, what payment options are going to be available? Well, here we go. With Linksdot, they have pretty much got all of the bases covered. They will be accepting major credit cards, which I can only assume is Visa and MasterCard. Not entirely sure on American Express, but those of us down under, not too many of us have American Express anymore, but the major credit cards will be accepted. They will be accepting crypto payments. In which currency, I'm not entirely sure at this point. It's probable that it would be HNT or perhaps a stable coin like Tether. But just watch this space. They will be accepting crypto payments for those that choose to pay through that. They will also be accepting Apple Pay. And for some regions of the world, PayPal is the preferred option. Now, at this stage, PayPal has not been confirmed, but it is an option that they are strongly investigating, and they do have high hopes of accepting PayPal payments. But at this point, that one's still a question mark. So we've got our 3 big ones, credit cards, crypto payments, and Apple Pay, all locked away, ready to go. Question number 4, how many Linksdot will there be manufactured in batch number 1? Because I just covered before that we'll be rolling batches of these units out, and there is only so many that are going to be available right off the bat. So let's have a look. Well, we've got 1,000 units in batch 1. Now, this is an approximate. It could be a little bit more, maybe it's a little bit less, but let's just round figures and say 1,000 units. That's the initial batch. The future batches beyond there will be, at this stage, likely to be around 5,000, but that is also going to be depending on supply and demand, and also supply chain issues of components at that particular point. Now, the great thing is with the 1,000 units is that Linksdot actually had anticipated that the DY community and that the MOC were going to give a green light. So they have been hoarding and collecting components, some of those hard to get components, over the last couple of months, and they have them in their hands right now. They're not on order like they might be with some other companies. They are in their hands right now. So there is 1,000 units that is absolutely guaranteed. Beyond that, guys, it hasn't been written. It's not set in concrete, but the expectation is 5,000 units, and those will the updates on the timeline and exact numbers, well, they will be released as we move on down this path. Question number 5, will there be preferential treatment to specific IoT regions, e.g. AU 915? I mean, really, I would love there to be preferential treatment, because that means that we could score the full 1,000 units down here. I mean, when you look at the map right now, the US, goodness knows, they must have somewhere around probably around 50-odd thousand in the US, and close to another 50,000 are spread across Europe and China, and across the rest of the world we've got little dribbles here and there, and in Australia we've got a grand total of about 20, and half of those aren't even meant to be here because they're bobcats. The unfortunate news is that there will be no preferential treatment. It is going to be first in, best dressed, and it's going to be based on your position in the existing links.waiting list queue. If you think back to some of my earlier videos, those have been following along, when I first raised Linksdot as a possibility, when I identified them on the HIP19 flowchart on the spreadsheet, going back about 2 months ago. At that stage, and every other video that I've recorded since then, I've encouraged people to go to the Linksdot website, put your details in the form so that you are in a waiting list. You'll receive updates on where we stand. Now, at that point, I had no idea the fact that they were going to be using that list or leveraging off that list to determine an order frequency. But guys, they are. So if you were lucky enough to put your details in the form back then months ago when I first suggested it, she'll be apples, you should be right. All right, question number 6. How and when can I order the Linksdot hotspot? So your name is on that waiting list, and now you want to know how you actually physically go about getting a Linksdot hotspot in your hands to put on in your window, wherever it might be, to build the people's network in your region. And Linksdot are going to be sending an invitation to purchase emails. That's rather an email with an invitation to purchase. They will be sending those out very, very soon, like within the next probably couple of weeks. There will be some communication coming out from the company sometime over this weekend, but the invitation to purchase will probably be sent in early August. So this is the wait list that is off the website. If you had completed your name and address and you put it in, then you are in the mix, and you will receive your invitation to purchase based on the order that you sit within the list. Every person has a number assigned to them. So to confirm, the exact number of emails per invitation batch isn't known at this point, okay? Because let's imagine for a moment that there were 5,000 people in the queue, of which I'm quite certain that there are far more than that. But let's just play with the number of 5,000. If they threw the emails out to everybody without showing any preferential treatment, there would be no point to it whatsoever. They may as well just send an email and say, go to the website and order. Now, you may have in fact seen some of the nightmare stories of some of the other vendors recently where their sites have crashed when people have gone to try and order their hotspots. So in this particular case here, Linksdot will be sending these small batches of emails out, and the exact number is not known at this point, but they will be sending them out to invite you to go and purchase. For some reason you're not in a position to purchase right now, or you elect right at the moment that you don't want to purchase. Maybe you've purchased hotspots through other vendors. You've already got hotspots, your financial situation has changed, whatever it may be. If you elect no, and I'm not entirely sure how this mechanism is going to work, if there will be a yes, I accept the invitation, or no, I don't, or do they just send you an email and they give us a period of time to do it? I'm not entirely sure of those particulars, but if you elect no, then your name will go to the bottom of the list and the next person will move up. So it's not like you only get one shot and then it's out. That name will go through and it will go to the bottom of the list, which will be obviously some way down. So if you are lucky enough to be in this first batch, guys, I'd really encourage you to do whatever you can. If you are serious about getting yourself onto the People's Network, this is your chance to do it, because there will be delays for future releases. So how many can you order in batch 1? Well, unfortunately, it's going to be limited to only one single unit per person. Now, I did speak to Adrian a couple of days ago now, and basically reinforcing that here in Australia that we have no network to leverage off. If we were in the US or if we were in Europe, we can get one unit and we can actually put that unit somewhere that is in amongst a cluster of other units and do very well just with one hotspot. But here in Australia, we have got such small little clusters at the moment. One down in Sydney, one down in Adelaide, and one on the Gold Coast. Those are the 3 clusters at this moment that are actually working. There's also a couple over in Perth at this stage, but not a lot of coordination going on over there. Down in Melbourne, we call that Bobcat City down there. You've got 4 Bobcats and really not a whole lot of coordination. So if you get one unit and you are not in amongst one of those other clusters, you're going to essentially be a lone wolf for a period of time. I did try to lean on Adrian heavily, asking him if we could do batches of 3, but reinforcing the fact that he was looking to keep this incredibly fair and spread evenly. 1 per unit is what the company has decided, and right now I guess we just have to be thankful for what we can actually get, and if 1 is all you get for the moment, that is what it is. Now, if you have only just recently put your details onto that wait list, I'm sorry guys to say that the unfortunate thing is you're probably not going to make it into this first batch of 1,000. But your name is going to be in the list, and they will be escalating as rapidly as they can to access additional components, change designs, do whatever in order to move to batch 2, which will be those larger batches. So question number 7. How long will it take to receive my Links.hotspot once it's ordered? Once you've actually got that invitation to purchase email, you've made the purchase, how long will it take until you actually receive it in your hand? To confirm the exact number of emails per invitation batch, as I mentioned before, is actually unknown. Yeah, and I've got my own opinion on how this will work, but guys, this is really only in my opinion. Neither Adrian or Eric have confirmed 100% exactly how it works, but I anticipate that there'll be a period of time before for a person to accept that offer, that invitation, before moving on down the line to the next person. How can I order? Batch 1 will be limited to a single unit per person or per email address. Now, of course, some people may have joined that wait list with multiple email addresses. Of course, at the time, we had no idea that wait list was going to be utilized for ordering processes, or I'm sure that probably many other people would have done that. I don't know if there'll be some check and balance in there to ensure that maybe there's only 1 per address, or maybe the occurrences of multiple emails within a small period of time is so infrequent that it's just not worth the effort. I'm not entirely sure at this point, but of course it's too late to do that if you were not already in that situation. So again, just reinforcing the fact, if you do not make it into that first batch of 1,000, it is unfortunate that there will be a wait. And at this stage, the period of time for that wait is unknown. However, Links.com are a very effective, well-connected organization who have got a proven track record. So I do not believe that it will take very long for them to get batch 2 once batch 1 has gone. Now, the good thing is here, one of the benefits that we have with Links.com in batch 1 is the fact that many of the components that they have on hand have already somewhat been pre-assembled or placed together. The boards have already been constructed via what I can only assume was probably their China operation, and had been distributed to the UK, or maybe they were put together in the UK. I'm not entirely sure, but batch 1 will be fully managed on site in the UK. So that means that we eliminate any shipping issues. It also overcomes a lot of the challenges that some of the other vendors are having with communicating from their office in the UK or the US or wherever it happens to be with China. Because of course we know through COVID at the moment, we can't just freely jump on a plane and fly over there and sit in front of your company. Most countries have still got some sort of international travel bans. So you're limited to maybe phone calls and Skype calls, and I guess you can only do so much. In this particular case, Links.com will be doing it all in-house in the UK, so pretty much from now until they roll out the door, it won't be leaving the UK shores. So the current timeline, August, which we will be entering in just a couple of days. That's where we'll be looking to assemble the hotspots. Now, obviously, the first couple of weeks in August will probably be the pre-orders or the orders. Call it what you like. But then probably from that midpoint of August to the end of August, or maybe the first couple of weeks in September, will be the assembly, the packaging, and the shipping. Or rather, the shipping would be that final component, which at this stage they're anticipating shipping in mid-September, and reinforcing that is going to be direct from the UK. So it's not going to be going via a distributor in China, as many of the other units are from the other vendors. This is going to be managed out of the UK. So guys, what I would stress is that for everybody just to keep calm, be patient. For those that are lucky enough to be in the first 1,000 batch, guys, September will be here before we know it, and you will have your Links.hotspots in your hand. Exciting times. I'm actually really satisfied with this. It's about as good as we can get under the circumstances. Okay, so moving on to the next phase, because we've talked about batch 1 now, about ordering and moving on. But of course, for those other people that don't fit into the 1,000, of which as much of a shame as what it is, I'm quite certain there will be many people that are watching this video that won't be part of that initial 1,000, regardless of if you're in Australia, New Zealand, or anywhere else in the world. Guys, remember, these are being shared equally across the globe with no favoritism being given. So how many will we get here in Australia? It will purely depend upon how many Australians actually were in that first batch of emails with Linksdot. So how will you order batch 2 and beyond? Well, this chapter still hasn't been firmly set in concrete at this stage, and there's obviously a lot of factors to be considered. Supply chain issues still exist around the world right now, and supply and demand is really not known, because the great thing with Helium and the Mock right now is that there are a number of vendors that are coming online. Of course, SenseCap launched only a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, they don't service the AU915 frequency band, but they are right now distributing, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was 10,000 units. It was some large quantity anyway. I think it was 5,000 to Europe and 5,000 to the US. On top of that, obviously, you've got Rack and you've got Bobcat that are still distributing. Syncrobit are still taking orders for US and Europe, even though they're not taking orders for Australia anymore. So there are other vendors that are out there, which means potentially the supply or the demand for Linksdot units for US 915 and Europe may be slightly less. But how many will be in those batches? 5,000 is what they're looking at this stage. But as mentioned before, that is very much dependent at this stage upon supply and demand. How many do we need? And of course, the supply chain issue, how many components can we actually get? One of the particular points that I really, really like, and I've picked this up through Adrian has mentioned it, not specifically in these words, but it's the general theme that I get, and also I have seen it mentioned in on the Discord quite often. And we're most likely aware of the large companies, the hosting companies like Emirates, and the other hotspot vendors, hosting companies that around the world that order many hundreds of units, potentially many thousands of units. And when they place those thousands of units, well, of course, it ties up that supply chain so that the little guy, the single operator, 3 or 4 hotspot operators can't get their units. Linksdot are actually very much about supporting the smaller players. Okay, so moving on from Linksdot, let's look at what else is happening in the Helium space and the hotspot vendors. Now, the question, of course, may get asked from time to time, does Helium actually know just how tough it is down here in Australia to build this people's network when we have so fewer providers? I have seen it mentioned on Discord. I've seen it mentioned on Facebook. And I actually don't know, or I didn't know until last night, how readily accessible the information was, as into the limitation that we face down here. Given that I stayed up until 2 a.m. to be on the DY call, and a couple of minutes of the call, I actually placed an agenda item onto the agenda item specific to supply chain for AU915, just to basically get the issue out there on the table in an open forum so that it can be documented in the minutes to say that, look, we've got problems down here and we need to get a fair share. And the great thing was I was given a couple of minutes to address my concerns. It was right at the end of the call. Let's listen to it right now.
Right up to the line, but I would be remiss to not let, I believe it was Ian from Australia, to ask a quick question that he very patiently has stayed up in the middle of the night to ask us all.
Great. Thanks, Jamie, and thanks, everybody. Obviously, here in Australia, we run on the AU915. And this is probably a question that would have been good to pose to, I think it was Jeremy from the Mock right at the very start, because I guess it probably fits into their patch more than anything. At the moment, the US market and the European market is being absolutely stacked, and every new vendor that comes on, obviously from a commercial basis, they want to go where the low-hanging fruit is, which is to those markets. Yet when we're trying to build a decentralized global network, you've got probably 75% of the rest of the world actually isn't getting access to a good supply of hardware. And obviously we can't make our own because of all of the other requirements. So I just wanted to get onto the community call tonight just to basically voice for those, and it's not just Australia, it's obvious. I think there's New Zealand, and I think it might be Brazil also operates on AU 915, but then there's a bunch of other frequency bands as well that don't fit within the European and US model. Not an easy fix, and it is going to be a commercially driven decision, I'm sure, by most vendors, but if we don't at least verbalize the fact that we are trying to build a global network, not just a network built in Europe and the US, then the problem maybe never goes away. So,
yeah, I'm not sure. Are there any hotspot manufacturers on the call who could speak to the lack of devices for that frequency band? I'm actually not familiar with details.
Well, I guess
everyone, this is Anne from.
Sorry, everyone.
Sorry, I'll do. Let's do Anne first, and then Jose.
Okay. So this is Anne from Bobcat. I think this is a really valid question. I actually don't have a good answer to that, and I don't really have enough information that's clear enough to share. But I've heard that question and definitely will bring back to the team. And if there's any development regarding other frequencies, AU or AS, we will definitely let everyone know once we're ready to share that.
Okay, yeah, and from the RAC side, I mean, the miner is certified for Australia now. So the only reason we're not doing it is because Helium currently supports our hotspot, but only for the US and Europe regions. So once we solve the support issue, we'll be launching in Australia. So it should be soon.
Fantastic. Thanks for bringing that up, guys. I really appreciate it. And I am aware that I know that Links.dot are going to be servicing the AU 915. It's just more of a... it's not a very level playing field at the moment, so just wanted to raise it. But appreciate your time, guys.
Rock and roll, Ian. Thank you for staying up in the middle of the night, and then I don't hold anybody to any timelines on that, but it sounds like it's in the works.
Okay, so now at least the DY community and the mock know about the issues that we face down here in Australia. How rapidly will times change? I don't know, guys, but I've done what I can for the moment. I aim to be on each of the DY calls. If you are a bit of a night owl, I would encourage as many of you as you possibly can to get onto those DY calls. They're once a month. Jump into the Discord. There is a DY channel, and you can get the schedule from there as well. The mock, the Manufacturers Oversight Committee, is a closed call. Nobody can go to that except mock members, including myself. But if you get on the DY call, you can get the latest and the greatest fresh information straight off the press. Okay, so how about a hotspot vendor update for the AU 915? We'll go over very briefly over the various vendors that have been providing hotspots for our frequency band. As a matter of interest, looking over here, we currently have now over 100,000. We have 101,402 hotspots on the People's Network at the time of recording, and guys, it's going up every day by multiple thousands. Okay, let's first talk about RAC. Last night on the DY call, Josie Marcelino from RAC was actually on the DY call. Once I had a chance to talk a little bit about the situation down here in Australia and New Zealand, he reinforced, of course, that RAC Hotspot version 2 were available for the Australian market, and confirmed that there were many units that were actually ordered, of which most of those are still on order at the moment and in the process. Now, orders are, of course, closed to all new orders, but he did seem to suggest, although he didn't confirm, at least I don't believe that he confirmed anyway, that light hotspots at this point would not be released from RAC to service the AU 915 frequency band. So that could be a problem moving forward, but at least he's aware of it now, so maybe if that is an issue, it can be addressed. Existing RAC pre-orders are still progressing in a timely fashion, and it's anticipated to see that many of the RAC units popping up onto the ANZAC map sometime very soon. And let's having a look here. We've got Orca and Panda. Guys, if you have an existing order through RAC and you don't know which batch you belong to, go to the CalChip website and use their shipping calculator to determine which batch you are in. And as you can see here, everything from the end of August for the Orca and Panda through to the Frankenstein batch, which is November, December. And there is actually a batch beyond Frankenstein, which unfortunately I'm sitting in. I had one single unit in that batch, and I'm not expecting that until probably January, February at this point. But RAK is still progressing. They do have good communications with their client base. Is it moving as fast as what we'd like it to be? No, we'd love it to move faster, but guys, they are moving and they are communicating, which is great. So RAK is doing a good job. Okay, so let's talk about Syncrobit. Now, they weren't on the DY call last night, or if they were there may have been a representative on the call, but they did not actually take the opportunity to speak at the end of the call when I was basically opening the floor for vendors for the AU915. That up until recently, they were taking orders for the AU915. Right now, according to the Syncrobit website, they are still taking orders for the US and European markets, but they have closed to the Australian market, to the AU915. Why have they closed the Australian market and not the others? I'm not entirely sure. I have my theories, but I'll keep those to myself. What I will say here is when are they due to deliver? Based on the orders that have been placed, when are they expected? Well, this is coming straight from Discord, and they're expected to begin in September. As I've stressed in a couple of calls previously, guys, the word there, the magic word is expected. So that doesn't mean confirmed. They're expected to begin in September. What date in September? It could be the last day in September, and they may send one unit, in which case they have met their objective. I do not expect, this is just my opinion, guys, and I would be happy to be proven wrong, but I really do want to try and set the level of expectation at the correct level out there so that many of you maybe don't find yourself in the situation that I and many of my other comrades who ordered through Nebra are currently finding ourselves in. And we'll talk about Nebra in just a moment. But in my opinion, it's highly unlikely that Syncrobit are actually going to be able to ship all units in September. In fact, it's just impossible, guys. It's just not going to happen. So I don't anticipate that most of the units will arrive until October, and possibly even beyond that into November. It would not surprise me in the slightest for units still to be delivered from Syncrobit into Australia based on the initial orders or the pre-orders that have been placed into December. But there's nothing official on that. The only thing we have official is that it's expected to commence in September. Alrighty, let's move on to your favorite and mine. In fact, it's probably not my favorite. It's probably my least favorite vendor at the moment, even though it's the vendor that holds most of my orders at the moment, and that is Nebra. Now, Nebra were not on the DY call last night, and I like to think that they were probably just too scared. And right now, according to what's happening on the unofficial Discord channel for Nebra, up until about 2 weeks ago, there was actually a pretty good level of communication coming back from Ryan and other representatives from the company. But as of about 2 weeks ago, guys, the brick wall came down and everybody's just gone turtle. Nobody has any idea at the moment as into where we stand with Nebra. The only thing that we can say is based on their last press release or email and communication via Discord is that they claim that they have 17,000 units ready to ship this month being July. I don't know. I mean, guys, they've been struggling to get more than a couple of thousand units on the People's Network over the last couple of months. I cannot imagine how they can deliver 17,000 all in one hit. But hey, if we work on the fact that what they're saying is 100% true, then that is the number that will cover the remaining items in batch 2, which is awesome. It'll also cover all of batch 3, which is amazing. And it will cover a percentage, and what percentage of batch 4, I don't know, but it will cover part of batch 4. What does that mean for the remaining of those in batch 4 and unfortunately for those in batch 5? You've probably heard me say it before, you've probably read it on the Discord. Take anything that Nebra says with a pinch of salt, and right now that's pretty much what I'm doing. I do not know when these guys are going to be here. I do have faith that they will eventually deliver, but I just don't know if their timeline is going to match my timeline of tolerance. So if Linksdot actually get to a point where they can start delivering in a high frequency of turnover, then I will cancel my Links.order order if I haven't received them at that stage. Right now, I will leave my orders in place. If you have your orders in batch 5, I would suggest you leave them in place as well. But if you do get an order placed with any other supplier, whether it be with Links.order or maybe one of the other vendors, maybe SenseCap actually start providing to Australia as well, at that point I would just put in a cancel. So Nebra, guys, man, what a nightmare of a story. Great looking units, and they're working well in Australia right now. For those that are actually using the Nebra units, they are working really well, but yeah, that's all I'll say about Nebra. Now, on the DY call last night, we did have Anne from Bobcat. Now, I'm not entirely sure of Anne's last name or Anne's position in the company, but she did acknowledge to the rest of the DY community that that Bobcat do not currently provide a unit for the AU915. She really couldn't explain why, but we can only be led to assume the fact that it was more of a commercial choice, supply and demand, etc. But she did state that this matter would be raised with the management team, and they're willing to explore the potential of certification of Bobcat units for the Anzac region. But guys, at this stage, there's no timeline attached to that. But it's been discussed in an open forum now. It's in the DY minutes. There was also mock representatives that were on that call right through to the end who have messaged me as a result of that conference call and the comments that were made at the end. And they said that they were very interested to hear the Australian perspective and will be keeping a close eye on it. So what will happen with Bobcat, I don't know. Alrighty, the surprise, the wild card to come out of last night's DY call was in fact a discussion that I had with Kathy Gansan, and I've really got to work on pronouncing some of these. I've been no good as a television announcer. I could never say these names if I was a sports commentator. But Kathy is in fact from ClodPie. I believe he may be the owner or manager of ClodPie, and he was on the DY call last night. And they also received the green light to distribute the helium hotspots out into the People's Network. At this point, they are focusing on the IN 865 and 867 frequency band, which is the band for India. And right now, just like Australia, like the AU915, the Indian frequency band is not getting any love. And anybody that knows anything about geography, India is an enormous country with a population that far exceeds what Australia and New Zealand has. And they are like us, just crying out for a provider to supply their requirements. The great news is ClodPie is coming on board. They're a home-based company and they will be producing units for that Indian market. But the awesome news for us over here in Australia is that they've also expressed a keen desire to support the AU915, as well as a bunch of other IoT frequency plans. Now, the approximate price for those, based on the discussions that I had with Kathy after the DY call, he and I spoke on Discord for about 30 odd minutes, but given the fact that it was now 5 a.m. in the morning, it was a rather short and succinct call. Price point for the units is approximately $500, and time to shipment at this point is we're looking at around 4 months. So even if we were to place an order with them today, it's not likely that they're going to be delivered until the end of the year. But guys, just be aware that ClodPie is on the radar right now. They are looking for a distributor of the AU915 region. Now, they want their assistance from that person or distributor to assist with certification and obviously the distribution of AU915 through to the Australian and New Zealand market. So if you think you can help with that, whether you've got contacts or whether you're listening to this call and you actually do have an IoT business or the likes, guys, reach out to myself and I will give you the details for Kathy, or you can just go to Twitter and follow the ClodPie Labs, and from there you'll get all of the details. Super news that they are going to be, or that they have an interest at least to do AU915, even though they maybe don't have the capacity right now. Okay, so there you have it, guys. We've done a recap on on our Linksdot. We've looked at the results of the DY call and the other vendors that are providing to us and may potentially provide to us. Hopefully you have got something out of tonight's call. Guys, this one is really important to the AU 915 area because this is, I believe, our opportunity to really stake a firm relationship with a vendor. So guys, I would encourage you to place an order with Linksdot. If you're not on their waiting list, get yourself on their waiting list. I would also suggest that you join the Linksdot Discord channel so that you can keep up to date with latest and greatest information via there as well. Guys, that's about all I've got for you tonight. Hopefully this has been enjoyable. Remember, subscribe to the channel if you're not currently subscribed. Hit the like bell. Hit the like button and tick on the notifications so you get the updates for all the videos from Helium Down Under. Guys, thanks so much for watching and we'll see you on the next Helium Down Under video.